Call the meeting to order. The roll call shows that Councilor Reynolds is not here tonight. Upset, I guess. Next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have an agenda before us. Is there any additions or deletions that anybody would like to make? Now I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Additional discussion on the agenda. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. That brings us to the consent agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to remove from the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not requesting to pull it, but we will be correcting the name of the city and the attorney's contract. But you may go ahead and approve it with that correction. We'll provide a clean copy for signature.
Okay, very good.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. That brings us to the open forum portion of our meeting tonight. If there is anybody that would like to let the council know what's on their mind, this is your chance. We'll have a 3-minute time limit and we won't be discussing any legal matters. So if you have something you'd like to let us know about, step up to the podium, name and address. Let's hear it. Nobody? I don't see anybody racing in from outside, so we'll move on to old business. Infrastructure feasibility study for the Pontius project. Jen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm bringing forward to tonight a feasibility report asking for your acceptance, which is to evaluate the costs of and alternatives for extending utilities to the west to help future and current development opportunities. So in past meetings, I've been here discussing and I see the applicant is and the engineer is here, the proposed Pontius West Plains development, residential development. The applicant has been in City Hall and been communicating with staff and myself about developing a parcel of land that they have recently annexed into the city. So we have been working very closely with them. The thought initially was that they would be able to service the property by extending utilities out to their site and installing a lift station to pump sewer back into our system. And at that time, during those discussions, we determined that this might be a really good opportunity for us to look at this as a whole trunk extension project to open up the area to a larger area than just this parcel. And this area, I do want to note too, has some restrictions to density on it because of the airport there. And so it does make this very difficult to develop because of the number of lots and the cost of getting utilities to it. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. So the feasibility report was to evaluate the alternatives and costs for extending utilities and determining the size and how to fund this project. So we did look, in the past in the sewer comp plan and the water comp plan, this was always planned to be served. There was a large trunk main that's been put in place. There was a plan to extend large diameter sewer and trunk water out. Since then, we have revisited the analysis on who could and who should be and who would be available to connect to that system and what might make sense, thinking that the assumptions in the past, or maybe that it was including a large area, that the probability of that connection and that extension or that area developing would likely never happen. So we spent a lot of time evaluating who could benefit from this, what is the likelihood of the parcels being able to come into the system that will likely develop in the future. So we have the Pontius property is included in it also. We have about 264 acres actually that we have identified as being serviced by this. And so how we're proposing this project to be funded is this development needs an 8-inch sewer and water, and they are required to loop their water main. So the cost of that utility of the basic 8-inch main line to them would be funded through the development. Any upsizing, the difference between the 8-inch to the 12-inch that would be proposed to be extended out to their property, that difference in cost is what would be split amongst all of the parcels. So that 264 parcel or 264 acres plus the Pontius, they would still pay for that portion of the upsizing because their development does still need all of that. That's how this would be proposed to be funded. And the way that would happen is that we looked at a different, an additional trunk fee that would be applicable to these developing acres, to the benefiting parcels. And that trunk fee would be charged out of per acre basis as those parcels developed. So the developing current West Plains development, again, you know, we would be bidding the project. We'd be looking at actual unit cost. Everything in this report is based on estimates. So once the project is bid and we look at actual unit costs, we would be looking at the difference between the 8-inch and the 12-inch. That difference in cost is what's spread amongst the acreage. And then the development itself would be responsible for the 8-inch portion of the utility. So that results in our estimates with the cost estimates. We have a additional water trunk fee of up to $1,500 per acre, an additional sewer trunk fee of $2,300 per acre. And so tonight we're asking for council to review this report and authorize, accept the report and accept the proposed trunk fees. Of course, once we move forward in the schedule, the next step would be that we would authorize final design, which we would work on that through the winter, bid it, get actual final numbers and be able to true up what the actual trunk fees. And at that time, we would be bringing a resolution to council asking you to accept that trunk.
Okay, questions for Jen?
Question, I just like to give kudos to everybody who's been involved in this, because it's been a lot of components to work with. We're not done yet, but I really appreciate the information you give us, and you're very thorough, and appreciate it very much.
Anybody else?
The map, Jen, that you have on here with all of the different properties that are, you know, proposed that they could be addition. So would they be assessed a trunk fee now?
No,
Okay,
no, they would be, and it wouldn't be an assessment, it would be a trunk charge that would be applied to their parcel upon platting, so upon development.
upon development, yeah, okay. So if they do nothing, then it won't cost them.
Correct, yeah.
Anything.
So there is that risk, of course,
Yeah,
that nothing would happen. But, you know, I do know there's another property owner here as well who has been in City Hall, who has expressed interest too, and, you know, conversations that we've had, there is some immediate interest with that utility extension for some other parcels being included.
okay.
Oh, did you mention $2,300, $2,300 an acre?
Yes,
Okay,
That's for the sewer.
yeah.
And that was just the sewer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an up to, as Jen noted. Once we get actual costs back, that number will be an actual number. So we'll come back once the bids come in. To ask the council to actually set a final number on the trunk costs for sewer and water. Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I'd like to, pass on that the, Public Utilities Commission reviewed this feasibility study last week on Wednesday. and accepted the feasibility study and also supported the proposed estimated area, trunk area charge for water.
Stole my thunder.
Oh, sorry.
Sounds like, it's been a pretty open process as far as this goes, and, everybody has been along for the ride, so to speak, so I'm not seeing huge squawks in the audience, so I'm assuming that you're okay with what these things say as well.
I'm screaming on the inside. Yes. Mr. Mayor, is there a true just question?
Yeah,
Oh.
comments, perfect, yeah, come on.
Thanks. Todd Olin. We had talked about some different figures, Mr. Mayor, but may I just direct him to Jen?
Well,
Different figures on assessments, earlier, and, I assume these are gonna fluctuate with, the further the plans get, the more accurate these will get. And then, what I guess I'm a little concerned about is that, because we're gonna be first, Pontiac's project will be first on this, we're gonna be for an 8-inch loop for water and 8-inch sewer, but anybody else that connects is just gonna get a trunk fee. So we're paying a trunk fee and for the utility to be extended because we're first. So, and when we're just trying to maintain that this be an affordable product and with restrictions on the airport, safety zones and whatnot. I just wanted to point those things out. You all know it. So, we'll just keep working with you through the process.
And I would like to respond to that too, because while I do agree, that has kind of always been, and this isn't the only city that believes this, but the first in is the one who's gonna pay, right? And so I think, Todd, we've met through this, and discussed this many times, or we did look at the cost. If we weren't participating, you'd have to bring it all out there anyway. And you'd have to build your lift station to connect back in. So we did look at the cost that you provided to make sure that it was benefiting, that it benefited both parties. We want to get a utility out that serves more than just you.
Right.
There's other parcels, other property owners who come in and who want to be part of this also, or want to develop also. And so if we just let you go ahead and get your 8-inch out there and loop and get your force main in, get your lift station in and connect back in, you're the only parcel who benefits from that too. So we did try to look at this, and we've been transparent with you during this process too, to make sure that it's a win-win situation, that we're not overcharging, that we're not making it a worse situation for you. We're making it a situation that the city can benefit from and the developer can benefit from.
I guess that this isn't something you're gonna answer now, but I'm just throwing it out there for consideration because it is front end loaded for us. That consideration be maybe to waive the sewer and water trunk fees since we're paying for the 8-inch to come out and would have paid for a lift station. Now we're paying for an 8-inch loop. For, I don't know.
Well, I'll remind you too that initially, before this whole process started, you were paying the actual city trunk and sewer and water, which was significantly higher than this fee, because this isn't tacked on to that rate. This is a
No, I
whole new trunk. So
Yep.
the trunk rates were significantly higher before this whole process started.
Right. Just throwing it out there for consideration, since we're putting utilities, if it were to go just us, we'd be putting an 8-inch sewer or the 21st or a lift station, then pumping it down to where the industrial expansion project ended. So along First, and then the water would pick up there as well at that northwest corner of the industrial, and then wrap around, go all the way back to 21st, which is down at Easement, which is, I'm sure on one of your maps. So I'm just throwing it out there for consideration. When the conversation started, we were very transparent with the struggles we're having with the development, with it being affordable, with it just being able to do it. So that was kind of a part of this. I think that started the conversation, and so no question, everybody's been working together. I'm not trying to throw stones. I'm just throwing it out there for consideration.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So you talked about having another property owner possibly be ready to develop. If they were to commit by the time we went for bid, would that change Mr. Owens' numbers, or are those pretty well set?
Those numbers are pretty well set, I would say for now, yes.
I'd like to add to Michelle, was talking about the public utility meeting, Jen was there, and we're very thankful that she was there to answer any of our questions or hearing. She did it very adequately.
And Mr. Mayor, I feel like I don't feel like I could answer that without having some discussion with staff and.
Well, I'm just, you know, I mean, it sounds like, so they have to get the 8-inch out, right? So if there was another, and the worry is that, you know, we have this property and nothing else happens. That's kind of the concern everybody has in a project like this. But if there was another development that was going to be able to go ahead and pay whatever the fees were at the front end, would that make a difference in the calculations? And that's the question that I'm just asking. I'm not looking for the answer tonight, so.
Mr. Mayor, I think what changes the number is how well the bids come in. Basically, because that 1,500 and 2,300 is based on an engineer's estimate of probable costs. And, you know, we've all been around the block, even in budgeting, we always tend to put a little bit of cushion in there, and until we actually get real numbers of what the improvements are gonna cost. That 1,500 and 2,300 is the engineer's conservatively realistic estimate of what it's gonna cost to get it out there. And once it actually gets proved by the market, you know, it's possible that those numbers could go down to 1,200 an acre and 2,000 an acre. Just depends on where the bids land.
Well, and so I think that when you say are the numbers set, I think we've well defined the trunk numbers. Those I feel like they are what our estimates are. If to Mr. Rowland's question of this 8-inch that they have to bring out, if we had a preliminary plat in that needed, that it was going by that, you know, that, yes, it could be possibly a different conversation, but we don't. And we also have parcels that aren't even in the city that we would be going by too. So, you know, looking at assessments or anything like that, it isn't equitable at this point in time because we're going by parcels that aren't even in the city limits. So it's not an easy answer. The trunk is what it is. The 8-inch sharing cost, that could still be a discussion, but the trunk is.
All right, and I'm gonna argue against myself a little bit. All of these numbers are to get access to the water treatment plant and the water system. So, some of it is actual infrastructure, and some of it is having access to the plant. So there's my argument against myself. Anybody else? And I would entertain a motion to accept the feasibility study.
So
Second. Motion made and seconded to accept the feasibility study for the Pontius project, West Plains. Is how we should probably be talking about this now. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? Carries. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd love to stay. I'm gonna try and hit up my daughter's basketball game, so I'm gonna,
Drive safe.
thank you.
Don't forget your tires. All right, that brings us to new business. We have a special event permit request from the Chamber of Commerce. Parade.
I can, yeah. Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is the annual Light Up Princeton Parade. They will be starting here at City Hall, heading to 7th down to third and then, or nope, I almost go to seventh, so right here now instead of an extra block down.
Yeah.
And then the third and third all the way up to the fairgrounds. We talked about potentially going right to tenth and over, but he wanted the stop signs to work in our favor, so blocking out the stuff. Like 20 units, I wanna say, in the parade this year, so
Nice.
Mhm.
that'll be cost limit.
Well, I can handle, right?
Yeah.
Any questions? That are looking for answers, it looked like it was a pretty extensive application, so I think everything has been questioned at least.
I'll make a motion to approve the special event permit request from the Chamber of Commerce.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, additional discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? That carries. That brings us to a donation from Princeton Minimet Press, KMS Companies for Mark Park scoreboard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you is resolution 2488, looking for approval to accept a donation of $1,000 towards the scoreboard project that has been before you in the past. It's a continuing project that is growing exponentially, and there's a lot of excitement.
Good.
Must be getting close.
We're getting very close.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 24-88.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. And we have a donation for the scoreboard project from Quick Trip.
Mr. Mayor, again, this is resolution 2489, looking for approval to accept a donation of $500 from Quick Trip for the same project.
I make a motion to approve resolution 24-89 at $500 donation from Quick Trip.
Somebody second?
Yep, me.
We have a motion and a second, additional discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's a quick donated something else this year. That's it, huh?
I think that's it. It was something in previous year, it had to do with the phone trailer, something, I remember.
Yeah, a couple years ago now.
Okay, I'm just surprised that, because I thought I saw their name more from the.
Yeah, they've donated to the fireworks too.
Yes,
I missed out on this year.
21 they did
Procedure.
for the fire.
Yep.
Department, yep.
I think that was for the phone, to do with the phone.
Yeah.
Fireworks. I missed it this year because of my bad. But I won't do it again.
So I'll do that.
What about that?
All right, so we have a motion and a second, and that just passed, and we'll move on to resolution 2490.
Mayor, members of council, resolution 2490 before you is looking for acceptance of a $3,000 donation to the Mark Park Improvement Project and scoreboard from J&S Concrete.
That's a nice donation.
Very generous. I'll move approval of resolution 24-9 section. Vision J&S Concrete.
Yeah,
There's a second?
Yeah, second.
thank you.
Motion and a second, additional discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? Great, 2491, a donation from Damian Tobin and Associates for Shop with the Cop.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a donation from David Tobin and Associates towards the annual Shop with the Cop program. This will be in addition to the donation we annually receive from Walmart. And for those of you that are interested, we do have a date, December 18th at 4 p.m. is the Shop with the Cop event. So looking for a motion to approve resolution 2491.
So no.
Second.
Motion and a second, is there additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries.
Thank you, Damian.
Happy to do it.
4 o'clock. We'll be there wrapping the presents. It was volunteer to help around. It's always interesting. They bring me to, I had to wrap a tiger in one year with no box and no cardboard.
Very creative.
It was quite challenging.
All right, next we have an ordinance, ordinance 861. Front fees and certifications of past due accounts.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm presenting this on behalf of Stacy, who is out having fun, out of state. As we, seems like everything we look at, as we're updating various other parts of the ordinance, we uncover something else. And this is a first reading, relating to, essentially sack and whack fees. We discovered that at some point, the collection of the water availability charge had been eliminated from the city ordinance, yet we were still collecting it. So we put it back in, and we also needed some clarity as to when, at what time, the trunk area and water area charges are to be paid. So those would be additions. And then it was also brought to our attention by PUC manager Butcher that there was still in chapter 930 reference to garbage.
It's been forever coming out.
Yeah, so we are taking this opportunity to clean up that section of the ordinance as well. So every day we fix things.
This will be an introduction.
Pardon me?
This will be an introduction.
Correct. This is your first reading.
Make the motion to introduce ordinance 861, amending title 9, chapter 934 of ordinances.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the introduction, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. We also have another ordinance that we will be introducing for amendment 866 fee schedule.
I could take this one.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is the annual review that we do of our fee schedule. It has been sent out to all the department heads, and then any recommendations they have been added in this ordinance for the change.
Nothing looked too terrible,
No.
too terribly shocking for a number of days. Mostly escrows, right?
There is a proposed change in the airport land lease from 20 cents a square foot to 25 cents a square foot. But yeah, there were a lot of, we continue to work through, again, as we're looking at our development ordinance and our processes in-house. Stacy's been trying to bring some consistency with our escrow requirements for development and those types of things. So there's some escrows that are being added. Looks like we also had primitive campground be still in the fee ordinance, which we no longer have primitive campground spaces. And some of the red are really just clarifying or adding, combining some applications that may have been separate previously.
We'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 866, amending city fee schedule.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is introduced. Comprehensive land use amendment, land use plan amendment and zoning map amendment for, this must be the 6th Avenue project, address that we're talking about.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a request by Thomas and Charlotte Mines for the property located at 107 6th Avenue South. It's a land use map amendment and a zoning change, zone change, from B1 Central Business District to R2 Residential District. Mr. Mines is now retired and, they have an interested purchaser who would like to convert this back to a residential dwelling. And, the B1 Central Business District doesn't really allow for that as it's currently configured. There was a planning commission, public hearing on November 18th. There were concerns expressed, from the neighbor to the north regarding parking, and lack of a garage. There are plans to, construct a garage, in the future. We're obviously toward the end of the construction season. The planning commission has submitted a recommendation of approval, for both the, comprehensive plan change as well as the zone change. So we're looking for a motion to approve resolution 2487 and introduction of, ordinance 865, which will, do the zone change.
Well, let's take the resolution first. If somebody would like to make a motion for that resolution, I'll entertain that.
Did anybody plan on their parking in the parking lot, former city parking lot?
They have the ability to approach, that parking lot owner and arrange independent parking outside of the city's involvement.
Yeah,
So I can't speak to whether or not they were successful or not.
okay.
So it looks like a garage would have to go in the back.
I believe that is correct.
Is there any time frame on the garage? Like, I mean, you don't want
But this winter, right now, there's no parking.
I know. Winter, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's for the availability in the former city parking lot.
Well, I mean, as a city, while they've expressed a desire and the ability to build a garage as part of this request, we wouldn't be able to condition construction of the garage.
Mhm.
So it's very possible that, you know, the garage wouldn't come till next year or even the year after. I mean, it's really up to the new purchaser to determine when they have the means to do that.
They have the parking with available space to park, whether they have a garage, their business. They
Correct. I mean, it's very possible that they could just, I mean, if in fact they have space in the rear yard for a garage, they may create a temporary parking facility off street.
Well, that was gonna be my question is, I mean, is people park in their yard all the time and is that, what would be the rule for that?
I don't have that information on the top of my head, Mr. Mayor, so.
All right. We do have the planning commission's recommendation. A rare occasion has to happen before we go against the planning commission, so
Mhm.
that's my comment on this.
Having been there, I'm sure they, vetted it all very well. Cleared all the i's and crossed all t's. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution 24-87.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Is that, a no for you? All right, so, I vote in affirmative on it, so that's 3-1. 2487. All right, ordinance 865 is zoning map amendment. This will be a first reading. So this is basically just changing the map to make the resolution work, correct?
Correct, it's a zone change from commercial to residential.
And the residential is contiguous with residential to the back.
Correct.
That, we're not doing too many gymnastics to make this happen.
No, and that particular block is pretty mixed anyways. This combination of residential and commercial already.
Yep. B1 portion.
I'll take a motion to introduce the ordinance amendment.
I'll move to introduce ordinance 865 zoning map amendment, first reading.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, I'm sorry, is additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Aye.
That carries 3-1. So that's, we're done with that, or is there, am I missing
Nope.
something?
Nope, you're done.
All right, then we'll move on to a capital improvement plan, part of the budget.
Correct. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, please refer to the hard copy that is at your space. As opposed to the one that's on bulletin board. So again, so this is updated today after Chief Frederick and I met to go through his portion. He wanted to make sure that he was dialed in. And we determined that he's dialed in, so, so basically this is looking out to 2036. We're primarily focused on 2025, but if there's anything that, jumps out at you in the out years, please let me know. We are doing our best to attempt to forecast, expenditures out farther than 5 years. Obviously the numbers get a little fuzzy the farther out you go. But part of this is to also make sure that we're not letting things slide off the plate and then be startled because we didn't plan ahead. So the first department is administration. We currently have no capital expenses identified for the administration portion of the budget. Next is airport. So we met with the Airport Advisory Board in July. And then the Airport Advisory Board also met with the FAA and MnDOT in September. And so the items listed under the airport are those items that have been identified. And in your packet that is on the bulletin board, we had an exhibit that talks about the perimeter security fence. That's not an entire fencing of the airport. It is more of what I would call a property line delineation. This is specifically in and around the flight service station and the North Memorial hangar, and some fence improvements around the entrance to the airport itself. So those are identified on an aerial that's in the bulletin board online packet. So there's two parts to that. One is the design, the second is the install. And then we have the design for the fuel tank upgrades. There's some discussion on the part of the aviation industry that they are getting close to having no lead fuel. So there is thoughts that the fuel tank upgrade would essentially have dual tanks. We're still working out the design details. So again, there's a design in 25, a build in 26. And then also in 25, we have identified, we have some MnDOT dollars to crack seal and seal coat the airfield pavement, and that's around the AD building. Correct, Bob? Thank you. And then we also have, the first item, which I skipped over, is replace the decking and the entrance to the AD building. And then the AWAS relocation, that got moved from a construction standpoint from 24 into 25. Because halfway through the design, MnDOT decided in its infinite wisdom that they wanted different equipment. And so that is affecting the foundation design, and I don't think they've finally settled on a final piece of equipment yet. So we're waiting on MnDOT in terms of that. So the monies that were budgeted in 24 have slid into 25. And ultimately, it's a MnDOT expense.
Yeah, and there's no local share to it.
There's no local share to that.
Mhm.
So that's the airport, at least for 25, and you can see the other expenses going out.
On your AWAS comment about getting split, every one of these, if we wanted to do them, they might not happen next year. Because it all depends on the agencies that are approving them.
Correct.
They could easily slide into 26.
Well, for that, plus so for example, if we go down the list to the snow removal equipment and the snow removal equipment building and the replace tractor and attachments, which kind of go together. We've been, I should say, Bob's staff has been very good at having that piece of equipment last longer and longer. So that whole set of the building and the replacing that piece of equipment for snow removal and mowing and those types of things. I think, Bob, that slid. When I first started, it was in 25, I think.
Mhm.
And now we have it pushed all the way out to 33. So some of this happens to be also when we need to pay back entitlements and how many entitlements are available and when we can accumulate the dollars. So that's the airport budget. I'd be happy to answer any questions or.
Just say by approving this, does this mean that we agree with everything on here? Because I have a huge problem with the building.
I would say that I'm not asking you to approve the out years. I'm asking you to look at the current year, 25. I know Councilor Geraldine and I have talked about the cost of that building, the design of that building, the materials of that building. I can go back to our engineers and say, hey, can we come up with a lower cost solution? I don't think we need a wood frame
Heated floor.
heated floor. And I think that that's a conversation that Bob and I can have with KLJ and see if we can come up with an appropriately sized building with an appropriate type of material and see if we can get those numbers down. We're not building the Taj Mahal.
Right. I mean, between the design and the building itself, we're almost to $1 million.
Right.
What kind of building are we building?
Mhm. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not a big house.
frankly,
To put a piece
Our-
of equipment in there.
no, the replacement cost to replace the post frame show pavilion at the fairgrounds is about $1 million. And it's a lot bigger than what they're proposing for this building.
I mean, something I mentioned to Michelle tonight was, why don't we just put up a hangar? We don't need a $1 million building. Put up a hangar if we need something, but we can talk about that maybe next year.
Yeah, so in the meantime, I think Bob and I can sit down with John at KLJ and say, look, can we really look at what do we need and what makes some sense for you out there?
Okay.
All right, any other questions on the airport? If not, then we'll move to the cemetery. I believe the 60-inch mower is,
In our discussion,
and okay, so I can actually take that off.
yes.
Thank you for that. So next year, we are proposing to repair and replace the soffit and fascia on the crypt. I believe
Yes.
we did siding,
We did roofing 2
roofing,
years ago,
sorry.
2 or 3 years ago, and so now we're just.
Yep.
We have soft foundation to address.
All right. City Hall, I have put some, money and I've talked briefly with, General Manager Butcher about sharing the cost of a new City Hall shared UC space analysis. He has a proposal that he had, I believe, received, so we'll be looking at getting some quotes after the first of the year to figure out. I mean, before, if we're gonna do anything, we need to figure out how much space we need before we can consider relocating or building or doing something else. A security film installation, which was a 24 expense. Kind of fell off the plate a little bit. So we're moving that into 25. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a joint project with the school district.
Correct.
So we'll be working together to get good bids on, hopefully good bids on doing the security film.
And that's for all the exterior windows.
Correct. That is correct, as well as, I think doors and windows on the school district side,
Yes.
so. Next is the Civic Center. The purchase of furniture, fixtures, and equipment is in process.
Correct.
Excited to see what you ordered.
I presume that the stove is wrapped up in that number.
Yes, so the new stove is part of that, and then some furniture and fixtures have been ordered, and I'm waiting until after Thanksgiving to order the last of them.
Just like to compliment the mayor, and I got a very gracious compliment of the new stove last Sunday morning.
Nice, that's big.
If they all, you know, told us how much they liked it.
It's good.
I wasn't even aware of that.
Did they replace it or is it an addition?
It's an addition, so you removed the fryer.
Yeah,
Did Tim have you post that?
Ed did
Yeah, I did. Okay, so we're,
the fryer.
yes, we're doing disposition of a piece that was in there that was not utilized, and so we're, that'll just go back into the general fund when it comes in. Trade-in value was not what we would have liked to see, so we're just gonna sell it outright.
okay, so under emergency or elections, we have nothing budgeted. I don't think we're gonna need to budget anything for a while. I think all the equipment's updated. Under emergency management, we have nothing budgeted for 25. We have nothing in finance. Under fire, for 2025, we have, new hire turnout gear. That's essentially enough to the 4 new staff that were authorized by the council. Replacement turnout gear are sets for, that need to be replaced under the 10-year requirement. So that's an OSHA standard. There was a request for airbag lifting system, and I think the council will recall, we talked about that probably in September or October. There's a second set of extrication tools to replace one of the second sets. We did acquire a set in 2024. We were not granted federal Fire Act dollars. We did apply for them to try to for that second set. We were unsuccessful. Fire suppression blankets. Those are for specific
Electric vehicles.
thank you, electric vehicles, that's what I was trying to extract. in my brain. The next item is pre-plan asset inventory software plus 3 iPads and tablets. This will assist the fire department in achieving one of their work plan goals and objectives, which is to start to develop fire prevention, pre-planning, and have data that's for each of the various buildings in the city. So when they approach a fire, they have access electronically to hydrant, alarm, water access locations. The Class B replacement foam actually needs to slide a year. They did not purchase any this year. So I neglected to move that into 26. So those $10,000 amounts will slide over 1 year each. And that's it for the fire department. At least on the tools and equipment.
So, I don't know, it doesn't make too much difference, but the extrication tools, did we get a grant for the ones we got this year?
No,
We didn't get it for this year or next year.
no,
Are we still applying for grants for some of them?
that will
We
be
will be.
the chief's,
Okay.
yes,
That's the plans.
yeah.
Okay.
He spent part of his time in the deer stand reading, then he federal. Correct. That's why he didn't get a deer. At least we're blaming it on that. So yes. So moving on to the fire truck replacement schedule. We have approved the replacement of engine 5. And we have in the budget replacement for grass 7. That number has come down. That came down about $20,000 the last time we looked at this budget. And the truck committee is continuing to look at ways that they might be able to combine and possibly in the future reduce the size of the fleet. So hoping they're successful in that regard.
So
Next,
in regards to that, what are you,
so the conversation that was had, and I'll look to the chief and assistant chief to help me, is that, I believe it's tender 9. And tender 4, looking at purchasing a pumper.
The last discussion that we had was, to look at the option of getting a pumper tender so that we could take the replacement of engine 8 and the replacement of tender 9. Replace both of those with a truck. To, eliminate the expense of replacement of 2 of them and, obviously upkeep, insurance, et cetera, et cetera.
We have the perfect location out at Wynette for that type of apparatus.
which units out there right now?
Engine 8 and tender 9
Are both out there?
And then
Yep. and grass 7.
2 for 1. So
So they're still evaluating that, but they are looking at it.
So if I go in that route, you're still getting basically the same functionality out of 1 unit than 2. What it sounds to me, and this,
So you have the same size tank on this pumper that you would for just a tender by itself?
I think so. One of the advantages out there is we have limited staff, so we could go to only having 4 seats. That reduces the size of the chassis, or not the chassis, the truck or passenger compartment. And you can add water to it. Most pumper tankers are probably 1,000 gallons.
Okay.
This one would be 2,000 because of that.
You know, you do have to have your size is important to keep under a certain length, because you have some, you know,
Correct.
tight little turns to make out there, so.
Yep, it would in essence be the same size as we have right now. As far as at least the engine, I don't know how long the tanker is. But
And the other thing that they're exploring is, making sure their pumping, capabilities, don't drop, because we don't want that to affect our, ISO rating.
So where does the water come from?
They have tanks there.
Yep, they have a storage tank in the building.
The rest is obviously hauled in. So.
Yeah.
Engine 8, it looks like it's not scheduled to be replaced until 2034 though. So. I don't know when you guys were thinking about combining those two.
Yeah, because tender 9 is 2031, you know.
But
More than
I'd like
likely,
to think about,
yeah, more than likely they move it up so that, you know, that's for a discussion.
yeah.
See how the apparatus is working out. And 8 may be worth quite a bit of money in resale
Mhm.
if it keeps. We keep maintaining it. Good fire apparatus, used fire apparatus is worth a lot of money right now.
Yeah, how old is engine 8?
We purchased that in 03, I believe it was 2003.
All of the larger apparatus is scheduled to be replaced at 30 years old, so I'm trusting that is when it would hit 30 years old.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on fire? If not. No, we have infrastructure, we have nothing, I shouldn't say we don't have anything scheduled. We will be looking at, the westerly utility extension, so I have to work with Jenna on where that fits. But we do have money in the operating budget, for design and feasibility of the Third Street North reconstruction, which we do have in 2026. So you'll start to see some documents and things coming forward on that project. Moving on to the library. We have we always budget, but knock on wood, we have been able to not have to replace the heating and AC units at the library. Kudos to Mr. Parson of the wastewater treatment plant staff. He keeps all of our HVAC equipment. He's very talented, and we are very lucky to have his skills, and he's been able to serve and save a lot of dollars on behalf of the city with the work that he does across the city in terms of HVAC. So we do have a project to paint the EIFS, however the heck, potato.
Looks like IFAS.
I know, at the library. So the roof did get fixed, so the flat roof project is done. Well, that makes us all very happy, especially the librarian. So unless there are other questions on the library, we'll move to the liquor store. We have the, again, painting the EIFS as a scheduled item for next year. Then moving on to parks. We have quite a few items under the Mark Park section of the budget. We, as you know, we are being very blessed by this community, and we are collecting lots of donations for a lot of the improvements that have been identified. And the splash park shades have been ordered, correct, Bob?
They have.
Yep, so they're not here yet, so. They'll go up next year, so, yep,
I did have the very first item here, branding of complex by others, what is that?
so that was on the Mark Park Improvement Group's list of projects identified. And I think it's selling advertising and those type of things.
Yeah, or it's something they want to participate in, they want to put their logo up, basically be buying billboards,
Mhm.
advertising around the park.
And that's why it's listed by others. I just wanted to acknowledge that that was on their list, but it's not really something that we are going to take on, and that's why it's also funded by donations, so.
Thank you.
Yep. There are no other questions on Mark Park improvements. Then moving on to Rainbow, we have shades scheduled for 2025. The resurface the basketball court, I think those monies need to slide.
Yeah, we'll have to push that into 25. They were even earlier early this spring. They were questioning whether or not they could get it done. So
15,000 to move over.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we're proposing to retrofit the basketball court, one of them with a bank shot thing, which I'll be interested to see, but. Correct.
They get,
Fortified.
vandalized.
Oh,
Yes.
And then, Reedy Park, we are working with the Anoka Saltwater Conservation District. They have some dollars under the One Watershed, One Plan, funding program to do some riverbank erosion control. Bob's been in hot and heavy conversations with those guys, and so we're looking to do a cooperative project with them on essentially improving the water quality, continuing to maintain the good water quality of the Rum River through this project.
It's interesting that Anoka would be, did we reach out to them or they come to us?
they reached out to us. The individual I spoke with was in town for one of the Silver Children's sporting events. And was just driving around looking at the parks and identified an area and
Good.
so they have monies that can be spent, but they want to do it north of the metro. And so we've been looking, we have the DNR and looking at doing some bank stabilization, pretty much across from the boat landing.
Okay.
Which it needs,
It'd be a main branch and.
Yes.
Well, we got fabulous. We have that outside in. I'm a little familiar with Florida Water, hasn't been on the Black County board, but not near as much as I probably should be, but get pretty comfortable still.
Yeah. Since the state went to, previous to, I want to say 2010, watershed planning happened on a jurisdictional basis. And state finally recognized that water crosses jurisdictional boundaries, so the one.
Water coming from every Bethel count.
Correct, so the Rum River watershed starts in up by Garrison or Onamia, north of Onamia, up by the casino. It goes all the way to Anoka, and so there's now one plan for the entire watershed. And there's a funding group and a joint powers agreement, but the state is funneling money into the watershed, and so they can identify projects up and down the whole stretch, and that's why Anoka the Anoka Saltwater has identified a project here in Princeton.
Something good going out of the government program.
Mhm.
All right, any other questions on parks? I would like to let the council know that I have requested assistance from the park board, to look at the master park and trail system plan. Have asked them to spend their next couple of months looking at the plan and start to, prioritize and provide input to staff. So each of them are getting a packet, over the weekend that will have the park plan and a memo asking for their assistance. So this will probably get a little more fleshed out, hopefully, at least that's the goal, to start looking at implementing some of the recommendations that are in the master park plan. So we'll see what they come up with. So moving on to planning and zoning, we have identified, so we've talked about this for a couple of years, looking at a document imaging and storage system. And that 75,000 is essentially the first step. When Ed and I worked at the county, we had a sort of a global imaging and storage system. It will help us eliminate our filing cabinets full of paper. And in the event that we, ultimately in the event that we need business continuation because of some natural disaster, God forbid, we'll have all of that stuff stored electronically. So that's ultimately the goal, is to get paper into electronic format. So, and then adding likely replacing the current plotter that we have. It's 20.
It's old enough to drink.
And so it will be we're looking to purchase an e-size scanner and plotter, so we'll be able to continue to make the large signs that we do for the Splash Park donation days, but we'll also be able to scan those large documents in the event that we don't have an electronic version of something to send to somebody. So and then I alluded to the fact that we've been looking at, or Stacy's been looking at and working through the subdivision ordinance, and trying to actually make heads and tails of some of the conflicting provisions that we have. And so we have a quote to do an ordinance update for the subdivision standards. And then we've identified, I think 2 years ago now, 3 years ago, maybe, time flies when you're having fun. Some opportunities for the city to divest itself of some additional or extra vacant land. And so we've gotten some estimates from WSB. So we are proposing to do a small survey and planning project for sale of real estate in 2025. And then we also talked about just cleaning up the public works site. Has a lot of unvacated alleys and streets. And so just doing that work and getting the public works site all on the one parcel of land as opposed to a bunch of little parcels, just trying to clean up our real estate.
That's in 26, right?
Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. That's in 26. Sorry about that. So that's the planning and zoning expenditures proposed for 25. Moving on, if there are no questions, moving on to the police department. They have scheduled their handgun replacement. We talked previously about the K-9 squad. Initially, that was going to be in 26 with just a standard squad replacement in 25, but there is a need excuse me, to replace the K-9 squad. That is a higher priority than just a standard squad. The replacement targets at the gun range, the officers found a better, safer, more flexible type of target design. And the ones that they have are aging out and creating a little bit of a safety issue. We potentially have a retirement in 25, so we have tactical equipment for a new officer. And the tasers are due for replacement. So there's dollars in the next 3 years to do a rotational replacement.
So a tactical equipment is 3 years in a row.
Well,
Is a replacement, you mean?
the taser replacement,
Oh, okay,
yeah. Correct.
okay.
Any questions on the PD? Okay, moving on to the public safety building. The kitchen stove is, in need of replacement. It has a nice big do not use sign on it.
It's a fire hazard.
Yeah, it was, it's got it doesn't like its, I don't think it likes maintaining gas inside of it. So
It has a gas leak.
it has a gas leak, so,
And shut down.
yep. And then I believe we talked about this at the last council meeting, replacing the garage heaters on the fire department and the police department side, so, and there's a possibility of repair, but I think we're leaning towards replacement.
Correct. It's the models that are in there, the make and model that is in there on both sides is reasonably priced quality. And historically, you could replace parts that needed replacement and got extended warranty. The program doesn't exist anymore, so we're looking at upgrading to higher quality.
I answered my, then I asked if you were gonna, the upgrade is gonna be better quality or probably door, so it's gonna be better anyway.
Yep.
All right, so that's it for public safety. The public safety storage building has nothing in 25. But police and fire are looking to do some mobile walls for training enhancements in 26, so stay tuned for more details on that one. Public Works, we have refurbishing the snow blower and replacing a truck. And putting rims on the unit 930 is the loader, right, Bob?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's it for Public Works. For 25, and 25 under technology. Their PD is getting squad printers and tough books. They're due for replacement. We need to add a second server to separate the criminal justice information from the non-criminal justice information, because even though you can virtually separate them, they need to be physically separated. The server at City Hall needs to be replaced, and the public safety building physical firewall and its software also needs to be replaced. And we're actually sliding the website upgrade over a year. I need to take the $24 out. We're getting close, correct, Ed?
Yeah, they said, December.
Okay, so
I hope to see something within the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they were parked
Our
right.
headlights are like right in my face.
About 24 over there.
Yeah, that's $10,000, so.
They just stared at the sun.
Yeah. Whose vehicle it
I
is.
don't know, but it was right up by the door with our lights shining.
Yeah.
Mhm.
See that?
You think I'm ready this yet?
Yeah, because it's gonna get paid in 25. All right, so that's the technology upgrades for 25. Any questions? Okay, then we move on to the wastewater treatment plant. And in the onboard, there is a memo that talks about our certified lab, which was scheduled. The start of that was scheduled for 2024. I will provide kudos and credit to Chris and his staff for providing the information that I put into the memo. They spend a lot of time looking at hard costs as well as talking to their plants, some of which have certified labs. At the end of the day, we are recommending that we not pursue that option, given the hard costs, labor costs, increased costs for our current lab as we take testing away from them. We do get a fairly hefty discount from the lab. And then just the chain of custody and the paperwork that we would have to maintain and store. We're really not set up for all of that. So that line item will come out of the budget.
Well, it sounded like a good idea.
Correct. It sounded like a good idea.
Sure did. Look good on paper. Yeah.
Yeah. Chris and his staff did a really good job of really taking the time to look at all the components and analyzing the expenses, so.
Appreciate that.
Yes. So just going through the laundry list of items for 2025, we have our annual stream bank repair dollars, which Bob is really good at not utilizing most years. Correct.
What do you know, well, water extender,
We looked at it.
Yeah.
We did.
because we talked about it already.
Yep. No, we actually.
It all has the same end, so. I mean, that, no matter where it washed out, it's going down to the book.
It does, but we actually looked at trying including one of our existing sites that needed some repairs and.
Yeah, not just.
But I want you to be aware that, we have looked at that. We're cognizant of it. We're looking at all avenues.
This last year had been hard on damage on the banks.
We actually only had two that really needed a lot of work and one that needed some minor repairs. But my staff has gotten very astute at doing these bank repairs. And we're utilizing materials that we have around the city. We're taking cedar trees off the airport, we're taking cedar trees out of parks, the schools, and allow us to utilize some of their cedars. And they're learning how to tie them in, and we actually built equipment to set them in a more safe fashion so that someone doesn't have to go swimming.
Well, you're probably doing that pretty early in the year and that water's probably not warm.
Correct.
All right, so next item is we're trying to work some deals and bartering and getting Midco to provide us an internet line to the plant so that we have more stable service. Right now we have Windstream, and some days are good and some days are not so good, so that's our goal. We need to paint clarifier 1 and then paint clarifier number 2. We have, monies for the AC unit replacements at the plant, which, Chris, I think we talked about maybe being able to eke them out another year.
He will probably, he figures we should be able to, but you never know.
Yeah. We have to replace some, controllers. They were scheduled for 24. We've now moved them to 25. Take that note out of there. And then we have, a routine sampler head replacement. So they just need to be replaced every so many years. There is a request to replace the screen room exhaust venter. That one's just through overtime is just.
Rusted out, we just found that not too long ago.
Yep.
No more fix to it.
And then the screen room valve replacement. That is an item that's budgeted. Then we have, a line item for spare pumps and motors for the wastewater treatment plant. And that is the end of the CIP. Kudos to everybody for being budget conscious, creative, and making a really good effort in finding good solutions.
Great, any, overview comments that you may like to make about CIP? I still don't understand quite how everything gets paid for in there, but.
We have a capital reserve fund, so that's that $175 a year we levy that goes into the capital reserve. So,
It doesn't seem like enough.
no, it doesn't, but, we're making do. We have money in investments and we'll figure it out.
Picturing here.
No, I look at all those dollars.
I'll look at those too, and I don't see a hundred seconds, that's why.
Right? It's like all these totals and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, deep pockets there, huh?
Some of it is, it's paid for by other means than that, so I mean, that's a big part.
But, I still need those grants. Stuff like that to help.
Yep. Well,
Governmental transfers.
yes. Yes, unfortunately, when it comes to things like infrastructure, they're not, the intergovernmental peoples are not interested in funding fixes of the old stuff. They just want us to build brand new shiny stuff and.
Mhm.
All right, I think we're all good on that, so we'll move on to the bill list.
I don't have questions. 23 something.
We need money for all we know.
It's a lot of money, but.
Yeah.
I move to approve the November 26, 2024 check register containing checks 89015 to 89059 and ACH payments 241113 to 241134 and 1126241 totaling $1,726,040.30 from the pay period. 24 check register containing checks 89060 and ACH payments 2424101 to 2424196, totaling $192,512.63.
Made in second. Anybody have discussion? Two big checks in that one that bumped it up. So.
Yeah, as I said, it wasn't a lot of payments, but it's a lot of money.
All right, motion in second. We've had some discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Brings us to the bi-weekly report.
Relatively short and sweet from the last, report. Reminder that we have board and commission vacancies. Our truth and taxation and final levy presentation will be December 12th. The financial institutions are calling back their investments that are at 5% or greater. So I've been having more calls with RBC in the last week or two. Fire department's working on their 2025 training schedule. I think that went well. I'm excited to see what they've got planned. Like to acknowledge all of the hard work on the part of the employees. They got all their health insurance, things in prior to last Friday's deadline. And, Karen did yeoman's work getting, all that information up, not to one website, but to three. So there's a lot of data entry. Canine Officer Bogey is on his way to recovery from surgery. Sounds like he's almost back to his normal rambunctious self. And so he'll be hopefully back out on the streets soon. Reminder, we're closed Thursday, Friday. November 30th is Small Business Saturday, Mini Dazzle, Light Up Princeton opening night. Our applications for filling the council vacancy are due Monday at 3. We have one application. We've put out several Facebook reminders. We have another one going out on Friday. And so December 5 is our study session, and December 12th is our regularly scheduled programming. That's all I got.
Anybody have any questions about that? Committee reports.
Yeah, well, Michelle stole some of the thunder, but for the, at our last PUC meeting, we did approve, and thank Jen and her, well, Michelle's always there, but Jen was there also. Gave us the overview that we got tonight, basically. The other thing I would add is we did do a, ordinance change regarding water, dead end water mains, or water, pretty inconsequential change. It's old, from way back when, but. Okay, then we authorized the bid package for the North Water Tower for next year.
Okay.
So, well, be the internal reconditioning and paint. Don't get a fresh, and it's being the least visible, we chose not to pretty it up too much. It's gonna basically get repainted the same color, but it'll look nicer because it'll be clean and repainted too. Okay, we approved our 2025 budget, schedule, fee schedule, and our 2025 rates. The rates changed hardly at all, the thing. And then, Simple is offering all their members $1,000 for scholarships for the coming year. So the Keith and I and Chrissy met yesterday, I think it was the day before, to look at doing a scholarship at the awards night at the high school. And we'll put together some conditions and whatever. So I thought that was very nice of them. Might as well use it and do something with it. Otherwise they don't get it. So that'll be coming up next spring. Well, we're gonna get all the planning together now, and we'll be happy to get the applications in and whatever, so. More to come, I guess.
And then you advertise that, is that through the counselor's office in high school or something?
Well, we just started, Vicky, so I think, yeah, I've been in contact with Becky Cartwright.
Okay.
Because we do the Legion, so I'm familiar with it. So we got a lot of eyes seen across it. Yeah, it goes to the high school. They have a committee that puts it all together.
Dollars for scholars.
Yeah, yeah, CBC does it.
Well, this is actually for award night.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably a little, I'm not sure.
All right, anybody else?
Do adjourn. Second.
Motion made second, all in favor? Opposed?